upbeat, historical music intro fades slightly into the background. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our channel. Imagine the scene. Rome, 14 AD. The divine Augustus, the first Roman emperor, has just died. His reign, the Pax Romana, brought unprecedented peace and stability for over 40 years. Now, a hush falls over the vast empire. The most powerful man in the world is gone, and all eyes turn to one question. Who will be next? The answer was a man who perhaps never truly wanted the job in the first place. Tiberius. So, who was Tiberius Claudius Nero? He wasn't Augustus's first choice, or his second, or even his third. The path to the throne for Tiberius was less of a golden staircase and more of a brutal political obstacle course littered with tragic deaths and palace intrigue. Augustus had a plan for succession, and Tiberius wasn't initially the star of the show. First, there was Marcellus, Augustus's nephew and soon-in-law, a charismatic young man beloved by the people. He was the golden boy, groomed for greatness. But tragedy struck in 23 BC when Marcellus died suddenly from illness. The dream died with him. Augustus then turned to his loyal right-hand man, the brilliant general Marcus Agrippa. He married Agrippa to his own daughter, Julia, and together they had 2 sons, Gaius and Lucius Caesar. Augustus adopted them both, making them his official heirs. They were the new hope, the future of the Julio-Claudian dynasty. For a time, Tiberius seemed to be out of the picture entirely. Despite being a proven and brilliant military commander who secured Rome's northern frontiers, he felt sidelined. He was married to Augustus's daughter Julia after Agrippa's death, but the marriage was unhappy. Feeling unappreciated and perhaps disgusted by the political games in Rome, Tiberius did something shocking. He retired. He exiled himself to the Greek island of Rhodes in 06 BC, stepping away from public life to study philosophy. It was a power move, a protest, but it nearly cost him everything. Back in Rome, fate intervened yet again, and in the cruelest way. Lucius Caesar died in 02 AD on his way to Spain. Just 2 years later, his older brother Gaius died from a battle wound in the east. Augustus, now in his 60s and heartbroken, had lost all his preferred heirs. His carefully laid plans were in ruins. Who was left? Only Tiberius. Reluctantly, Augustus summoned him back from Rhodes, officially adopted him, and granted him tribunician power, marking him as the successor. It wasn't a triumphant return, but a necessary one. The empire needed a leader, and Tiberius was the only viable candidate left standing. In 14 AD, when the news of Augustus's death arrived, the Senate convened. You might expect Tiberius to stride in and claim the throne. But what happened next was bizarre. He played coy. When the senators begged him to accept the powers of his predecessor, he hesitated. He spoke of the immense burden of ruling such a vast empire, suggesting it should be shared. Was this genuine humility, a clever political test to see who his real supporters were, or the reluctance of a man who knew the poison chalice he was being offered? Historians still debated, but eventually, after much theatrical back and forth, he reluctantly accepted the title of princeps. The reign of Tiberius had begun. Initially, Tiberius was a conscientious and effective administrator. He respected the Senate, cut wasteful government spending, and chose competent governors for the provinces. He seemed determined to follow in Augustus's footsteps, maintaining stability and avoiding costly foreign wars. He famously said, "A good shepherd shears his flock. He does not flay them," referring to his policy of not overtaxing the provinces. For the first decade or so, the empire ran smoothly. He was a far cry from the tyrant he would later be remembered as. So what changed? The answer, in a word, is Sejanus Lucius. Lucius alias Sejanus was the ambitious and ruthless prefect of the Praetorian Guard, the emperor's elite bodyguards. Over time, Tiberius came to rely on Sejanus more and more, seeing him as a capable and loyal deputy. He showered him with honors, and Sejanus's influence grew exponentially. He was the emperor's eyes and ears in Rome, the gatekeeper to power, and he had his own dark ambitions. Sejanus saw Tiberius's own son, Drusus the Younger, as the primary obstacle to his own ambitions. In 23 AD, Drusus died suddenly. At the time, it was believed to be natural causes, but years later Sejanus's ex-wife would confess that Sejanus had seduced Drusus's wife Livilla, and together they had poisoned him. With the heir gone, Sejanus's power became nearly absolute, especially after Tiberius made another fateful decision. In 26 AD, tired of the political scheming in Rome and deeply scarred by personal losses, Tiberius retired from the capital for good. He moved to the beautiful island of Capri, off the coast of Naples. He would rule the Roman Empire from this secluded island paradise for the last 11 years of his life, never to set foot in Rome again. This was the moment Sejanus had been waiting for. With the emperor physically absent, Sejanus became the de facto ruler of Rome. From Capri, Tiberius communicated through letters, and Sejanus controlled the flow of information. He launched a terrifying wave of treason trials, known as the *Maestas* trials. Anyone perceived as a threat to him or Tiberius was accused of treason. Senators and wealthy nobles were targeted, their properties confiscated, and their lives forfeit. Rome was gripped by a reign of terror, all orchestrated by Sejanus, who convinced the aging emperor that conspiracies were everywhere. He eliminated his rivals one by one, moving ever closer to the throne itself. But Sejanus overplayed his hand. His ambition was boundless. In 31 AD he schemed to marry into the imperial family, a move that would have solidified his claim as a potential successor. This final act of hubris finally alerted Tiberius to the danger. The emperor's sister Nella and Tunia managed to smuggle a letter to Capri exposing the full extent of Sejanus's treachery. Tiberius acted decisively, but with cunning. He couldn't just order the arrest of the most powerful man in Rome. He had to be careful. He appointed a new head of the Praetorian Guard, and then sent a long, rambling letter to be read aloud in the Senate. The letter went on and on, praising Sejanus at first, leading the prefect to believe he was about to be granted even more power. But then, at the very end, the letter's tone shifted, denouncing him as a traitor and ordering his immediate arrest. The senators, who had been fawning over Sejanus moments before, turned on him instantly. He was dragged from the Senate house to prison and executed that very same day. A brutal purge of his family and supporters followed. The reign of terror was over, but the damage was done. The betrayal by Sejanus seemed to break what was left of Tiberius's spirit. He became even more reclusive and paranoid in his final years on Capri. It is during this period that the darkest rumors about him began to circulate, tales of debauchery and cruelty, spread by his political enemies in Rome. How much of it is true is impossible to say, but his absence from the capital allowed these stories to grow and define his legacy. In 37 AD, at the age of 77, Tiberius died. His reign, which began with such promise and competence, ended under a cloud of paranoia and bloodshed. He left the empire financially stable but politically scarred. His story is a powerful tragedy, a tale of a capable but reluctant ruler, caught in a web of palace intrigue, personal loss, and ultimate betrayal. He was the man who followed a god, a task that perhaps no mortal could have fulfilled to everyone's satisfaction. What do you think? Was Tiberius a misunderstood ruler or a cruel tyrant? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into Roman history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.